The Lord collects our tears and prayers in a bottle. Psalms 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in a bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." These are beautiful words, family, written by David when he was undergoing a dark time in his life. When David wrote this psalm, he was captured by the Philistines in Gath. If David wrote these words while he was in distress, does it mean he was just using poetic language, or does God really collect and keep our tears in a literal bottle? When David says that God is keeping his tears in a bottle, David is referring to the fact that God remembers all of our sorrows, pains, and griefs. God remembers every single tear that we shed, and he will never forget the great amount of tears that have streamed down our faces. While God doesn't have a literal bottle filled with our tears, he does remember every tear that falls from our eyes. From the tears that we shed, we are stressed to the waterfall of tears that come with the passing, of a loved one. God remembers them all. Just as God collects and remembers David's tears, so does God remember all of our tears as well, family. David trusts that God is for him and that God will not allow his enemies to overtake him. In his writing in Psalm 56:8, he is reflecting on God's promises and his faithfulness. In the same way, we as followers of Christ need to reflect, recall, and remember that God sees all of our pain, and it's never for nothing, family. Even if we feel like sometimes, it is. Anytime we cry, God sees it. It is not as if God doesn't see our pain and then forgets all about it. Instead, God sees our tears and remembers them. Every tear that falls from our eyes, family. He remembers. He doesn't forget. While other people are fallible, God is infallible. The Lord knows what it feels like to feel sorrow, pain, and grief. When Jesus' dear friend Lazarus died, he wept in John 11:35. I know how Jesus feels, and I'm sure many of us out there do. Many people have this belief that God does not feel pain and that he never cries. This is not true at all, because God knows what it is like to be sad, sorrowful, and in pain. I'm sorry, family. I'm going to get through this one, though. Jesus experienced great pain and sorrow while he died on the cross for the sins of the world. When God first created mankind and mankind rebelled, God would have felt a great degree of sorrow, pain, and hurt, family. Each time we sin, we hurt God. Even though we may rationalize, that our sin only affects us, it is not true. Sin goes against God, family, and that hurts him. That makes him feel sorrowful and pained. As followers of Christ, we should do the best not to bring pain upon God, because he's done so much for us, even if we can't recognize it. God knows what it's like to feel sorrowful, which is why he wants us to come and place our worries at his feet. All of our tears are remembered by him, and they are never forgotten. Even our future tears. In the future, every tear of ours will be wiped away by God. Revelation 21:4 tells us he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the older order of things have passed away. In the new heaven and the new earth, there will be no more crying, pain, or death. There will only be happiness, joy, and love. Each time we cry, we need to remember this vital truth, family. Even when we find ourselves in difficult seasons throughout our lives, we can trust in the knowledge that God sees our pain and will not endure forever. It will pass. If you're going through a difficult time today, as I am, rest in the knowledge that God sees your pain. Brothers and sisters, he knows your pain, your sorrow, your depression you feel. He is storing them up in his memory, and he will never fail to recall your grief. Look forward to the day where, there will be no more pain. Sometimes it's hard to look to the future with a hopeful spirit when everything around you is falling to pieces, but that is where faith comes in. The Bible defines faith for us in Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Even if we don't see anything come into place in our present day, we can look forward, to the future with hope. All the tears are being collected by God, and He will not forget them. Other people in our lives may forget our pains and sorrows. However, family, God remembers them all, and He keeps them in His memory forever. When David wrote that God collected all his tears in a bottle, it means that God cares about each individual tear we cry, and He remembers the pain that causes our tears. Unlike the people in the world, God never casts us to the side or look at us for being inferior for crying. Rather, He takes us up in His arms and He holds us close. He gives us comfort. Not long in the future, He will wipe away each and every tear. It's the day I look forward to. And we will no longer have any pain, no sorrow, no tears, none of that. I mean, that's something I know I look forward to it, family. Therefore, just like David, God remembers all of our pains and sorrows and tears. Don't forget that. So anytime you're upset, just know each time you cry, God sees it and He knows it. It's good to cry because crying can help us, regulate our feelings and emotions as well, family. God designed us in this way, in which when we cry, we can start feeling better. So don't be afraid to cry either, because it is good to get those feelings out, family. There's nothing weak about expressing your true emotions. It shows you're of God. The next time you cry, remember the truth that God is collecting every tear and He is keeping it right beside Him forever. He will never forget your pain. The Lord will always collect and never forget. Even when we feel like we're broken to 1,000 pieces, He's collected all those pieces. We can trust that God will always comfort us, family, brothers and sisters, His love and His lasting peace and what it can provide. No matter what sorrow you're experiencing today, God will take each tear and remember it for eternity. The pain, sorrow, and depression you are feeling are real, and God wants you to come to Him, family, with these feelings. When we are honest and raw with God, that is where true healing can begin.